The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
Happy Monday. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. And what a weekend it was, man. A very disappointing weekend, to say the least, from a few different perspectives. One, the Redskins lost. Two, Robert Griffin III went down with a brutal concussion. Three, I didn't fare as well as I wanted to this weekend. Still have a chance to win 9 games, but I said if it wasn't double digits, it wasn't going to get it done for me. And I'm very disappointed with a lot of teams this weekend. And we'll get to these teams as we go through the slate of games and we go through the weekend that was. But I just want to say it up front. I'm very appalled at a few teams around the National Football League. And you know what? I shouldn't be surprised by some of these outcomes. But I am, because you don't expect certain teams to drop games to certain teams. You just don't. You expect, Team A to take care of business against Team B at home. Or you expect Team C, who has an 18-point lead, to dispose of Team D. It's very disappointing to see what happened around the league, to see some of my picks go to the wayside because teams couldn't play solid football and take care of business when it was right there in front of them. Speaking of which, that's where we need to start our weekend that was and go slate skating. So without any further ado, let's go slate skating.
The weekend
that was.
We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating. We're slate skating.
And so we start in Indianapolis, where the Indianapolis Colts waited on the visiting Green Bay Packers. And this one was for Chuck Pagano. The Colts came out and said it. Everyone knew it. They were sporting Chuck Strong shirts. That was the motto for the week, and that's going to be the continuing motto for the rest of the season for the Indianapolis Colts, is Chuck Strong. And everyone was in support. Even head coach of the Green Bay Packers, Mike McCarthy, had on a shirt showing his support because, as we all know, the coaches around the National Football League are fraternity. There are only 32 of them, head coaches that being, and so they all stick together. Of course, when you're going against one another, you want to win, but there's camaraderie there. They're a brotherhood. They're all coaches, and they're all in it together. Again, we wish Chuck Pagano a speedy recovery from that treatable form of leukemia. He's in there battling, and our prayers and thoughts are with you and your family. But as we get onto the football field, the Colts were going to make this into, a game for Chuck. And so they wanted to get this one bad, but the Packers jumped on them early, and I thought they really had a chance to salt this thing away. Early on in this football game, you could tell that this Packers offense still isn't where it needs to be. Aaron Rodgers had Jordy Nelson streaking down the sideline, wide open. Last year, Aaron Rodgers could have thrown this pass with his eyes closed. You would have had a 60-yard touchdown pass. Packers up 7-0. Instead, he misses him by about 2 yards. Wasn't even close. And so Packers have to punt. But before you knew it, the Packers had jumped on this Indianapolis Colts football team 21-3. And at that point, it was over in my mind. No way do the Packers allow this Colts team to get back in the game being up 21-3 at halftime. This isn't, a first quarter score and it's plenty. This is halftime. We're going into the third quarter, and we're halfway through the third quarter, and we're at this score 21-3. And I'm thinking the Packers have this one sewn up like a tailor. And so I had already scratched them off on the football pool sheet. I had already marked off anyone who picked the Colts. And so I felt good about that. I had moved on. And then the Packers just decided we're going to shut it down. And the Colts make a furious comeback led by Andrew Luck. And I told you that I thought if Andrew Luck threw the ball over 40 times, they weren't going to win. Well, Mr. Luck threw it over 50 times in this game, and they still won the football game. So I stand corrected. I don't think that's a recipe for success for them. They should have lost this game, but they won. And Andrew Luck was magnificent in the second half, especially tag teaming with Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne was playing out of his mind. And this isn't the first time I've seen Reggie Wayne go off this year. It's like Reggie Wayne has a resurgence or something. I don't know if he just needed an infusion of young blood on that in that Indianapolis Colts locker room or what, but he has come alive this year. And he's making acrobatic catches. And I had said this after week 1's game. I said, Reggie Wayne is going to be someone that Andrew Luck relies on heavily this year. And for good reason. He's the best receiver. He's the best thing they have smoking on that offense. It's not even close. But I still thought that, Andrew Luck is the guy that likes to work the middle of the field to the tight end. So, Reggie will be there. He'll be someone that he can go to on the outsides. But he's going to look to work those tight ends a lot. No, he's looking for Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne is going to be his bailout guy. He's going to be that person he looks to on 3rd and 7. The guy he looks to on 3rd and 12. And that's who it was on Sunday. And Reggie Wayne went off to the tune of 13 grabs for 212 yards. I mean, they could not stop Reggie Wayne. It didn't matter if, they had a safety over top, if he was running the middle of the field, if he was outside, if it was a short route, if it was a deep route. It was the Reggie Wayne show. Hosted by Reggie Wayne, co-hosted by Andrew Luck. And they couldn't do anything to stop him. The Packers had a really legitimate chance to really shut the door on this game. And I thought the referees robbed them of that opportunity. Early on in this ball game in the first half, the Packers were up 21-3. Nick Perry, the rookie outside linebacker from USC, gets a clean shot on Andrew Luck. It destroys him, forces a fumble. Packers recover the fumble, and we're talking about Packers in business at the Colts 12-yard line or so. I mean, they were literally a first down or two away from a touchdown in the red zone. And they call Nick Perry for spearing with the crown of his helmet. Bad call. Really took an opportunity away from the Packers. I thought that hurt, but the Packers should have been able to overcome that. Instead, they let the Colts march down the field and do some damage. And look, this Green Bay Packers team, I've already come to the conclusion. It's a foregone conclusion. I've already accepted it in my mind. I already know. This isn't the Packers team from last year. They're not coming back. They're gone. Get that out of your mind. If you're still talking about last year, you don't get it. The Packers from last year, they're long gone. But this year's Packers are supposed to be good enough to beat the Colts after having a 21-3 lead. And they weren't able to do it. They had opportunities. Mason Crosby missed a couple of field goals in this game. In his defense, they were 50-plus yard field goals. But still, Mason Crosby has been a model of consistency in this league as a field goal kicker. Inside in Lucas Oil Stadium, no wind that you really have to worry about. I expect Mason Crosby to knock those in. Now, that's asking a lot from a field goal kicker, but one of his caliber, I expect him to pound them home. He missed 2 field goals and ultimately proved to be the difference in the game. But again, you don't blame games on one player. The Packers had opportunities to get it done in this game. They gave up a lot of third down conversions to Andrew Luck. On one particular third down, on the drive that was the game-winning drive for the Colts, Andrew Luck made a spectacular play where he had Clay Matthews drooping all over him. managed to get away somehow. Clay Matthews is still trying to grasp him, however, and he rips off a throw to Reggie Wayne that just was, it was breathtaking. That's the type of throw you expect to get from your #1 overall pick in the 2012 draft, one that was supposed to be a can't-miss prospect. That's the kind of play that that type of guy that received that type of height is supposed to make. If you weren't an Andrew Luck believer before, you should be now. That was a heck of a throw, and that was 3rd and 12. That was the throw you had to have. And Reggie Wayne went up, he climbed the ladder and went up and snatched it out of the air, as he did so prolifically all game long. And they went down the field, got it done. Reggie Wayne catches the ball, stretches it over the end zone. 4, 5, 6 plays later in that drive, touchdown, they take the lead. And the Packers had one last ditch effort. And Aaron Rodgers takes them down the field, completes a couple passes, gets them. He had to use their last time out foolishly because they couldn't get the playoff, which is inexcusable for an offense the caliber of the Packers. But anyway, it happened. They had to use that last time out, so they had to kick the field goal at that point. They missed. They lose the game. I should be focusing on what the Colts were able to accomplish. Coming back, winning one for Chuck Pagano, emotional win for them. Andrew Luck came of age right before our eyes. Reggie Wayne had a performance for the ages. I should be focusing on the Colts and what they were able to accomplish. But it's hard to ignore the fact that the Packers aren't the same team anymore. The Packers aren't even a good football team right now. It's hard to fathom that. They don't protect Aaron Rodgers the way they should. He's holding on to the ball way too long. They don't know what they want to do yet. I think they're still trying to find a balance between run and pass. This defense that looked really solid to begin the year is starting to revert back to their old ways of the 2011 season, where they feel like they can just give up 30 points because the offense is going to score 38. That's no longer the case, defense. If you're going to give up points, you're going to lose this year. This Packers offense that was lighting it up last year, they're no longer that team anymore. You actually have to play defense now. That was so disappointing to see the Packers up by 18 in this game, blow the lead and lose. Take the lead again late in the 4th quarter, only to give it back and lose the game. That was so disappointing on so many levels. And so the Indianapolis Colts at home in a dramatic comeback from behind victory get it done for Chuck Pagano as they beat the Green Bay Packers 30-27, taking their record to 2-2 on the season, dropping the Packers to 2-3 on the season. And that, you know what? Rightfully so, the Packers need to be under 500 because they're playing under 500 football right now. They're not playing football like a solid football team does. You're up by 18, you win that football game if you're a good team. You don't blow that lead to a team like the Colts. And no disrespect to the Colts, but the Colts aren't in the league of the Packers. Haven't accomplished nearly as much as the Packers have in the last 3 seasons. And so the Packers should have been able to take care of business. No excuses. Don't want to hear any other, the officials had a part in this. Mason Crosby didn't pound home field goals. I don't care about any of that. Get it done. You didn't. You lost. Kudos to the Colts for taking advantage of any opportunities that they got in this football game and making them count. Reggie Wayne was an absolute monster in this game. Andrew Luck played a remarkable game, and they got it done. They got it done against the Green Bay Packers, 27-30. The Colts take this one at home. Coming off of I told you it was going to be a scary game for the Packers because this team had 2 weeks to prepare for them. But they came out the gate 21-3. So no excuses there. You lost the game. You're 2-3. And now I find it really difficult for you to climb your way back up into this divisional race. Look, the Vikings aren't playing. I don't know if you've noticed. The Vikings aren't playing. They're 4-1. The Bears, You already knew the Bears coming into this season was going to be a handful. They're 4-1. So you got a long way to go. You're down there fighting. Fight with Detroit. That's what you do. Fight with Detroit over last place. Who's going to stay out of the cellar? And once you climb out of that with Detroit, then you come talk to me. But until then, fight with Detroit over last place. Who's going to stay out of the cellar? Y'all fight over third place. And after you overcome that obstacle, over that hurdle, then you come talk to me about chasing down second and possibly getting back in the first. Next up on the slate, we have the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Talk about defensive struggles. That's what you got in this football game here. A lot of mistakes, a lot of opportunities wasted in this football game. And I thought the Chiefs had prime opportunities early on in this football game to really take it to the Baltimore Ravens. They were running the football on the Ravens. And that's something that the Ravens pride themselves in, stopping the run. They didn't do it at all in the first half. However, it got too good to the Chiefs. I mean, they were being too conservative. Literally, on a 3rd and 8 play, they ran the football. Who does that? Are you kidding me? 3rd and 8? You just going to hand it off? Not like you were on your own 2-yard line and you're just trying to get space to punt. We're talking about you're at the 37, 40-yard line and you just decide to casually hand it off out of the shotgun with a draw. On 3rd and 8? And you wonder why you've only won one game this season. And then Jamal Charles, you're leading the AFC in rushing yards. And for good reason. You're a dynamic back. You got to stop fumbling though, man. Good gracious. You were fumbling left and right in this football game. Luckily for you, you guys were able to pounce on a few of them. But you lost one too. You got to stop fumbling. And Kansas City is turnover prone. That's all they do is turn the football over. Last week against San Diego, if you blink twice, the score was like 27 to 6 or 3 because they turned the football over about 3 or 4 times in the first quarter or half. And they tried to do the same thing against the Ravens. Interception, fumble, another interception. Stop turning the football over, Chiefs. Good grief. All that aside, though, you were having success running the football against this Baltimore Ravens team. I'm talking literally the 8-minute mark in the second quarter, Jamal Charles already had 108 yards rushing on the ground against this Baltimore Ravens defense. They were running the football and getting chunks. But again, turnovers, missed opportunities will stop you from scoring points. And that's what happened to the Kansas City Chiefs. And so they allowed the Ravens to hang in the ball game. And they're not good enough to allow teams to hang in. If they got chances to score points, they need to score. And if they were going to kick 5 field goals, we'll kick 5 field goals. But don't turn the football over. And that's what they did. Continuously. And the Ravens weren't any better in this game. They were turning the football over. They were fumbling the ball all over the place. Joe Flacco threw an interception. And they were doing nonsense with the football, not taking care of it, not taking care of opportunities that the Chiefs were affording them, settling for field goals when they got in the red zone. So they weren't any better than the Kansas City Chiefs. And so 2 teams playing bad football, turning the football over, not taking advantage of opportunities. You get a 9-6 victory in the way of the Baltimore Ravens. When you get a struggle like this, normally the edge goes to the better team. Because the better team can afford to make mistakes and still get away with it because they're better than the other team. Now, if this was an evenly matched game, the Ravens would have been in some trouble. But luckily for them, the Chiefs aren't a good football team. I mean, they were destroying the Ravens on the ground. They get to the 1-yard line, and Matt Cassell can't handle the snap. Yes, I called you Cassell. You don't deserve to be called Matt Castle. You're Cassell right now. You fumbled a snap. Hey, it could have been the center's fault. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You fumbled a snap. Ravens get the ball. And you at the 1-yard line. Get in the end zone. That could have been the difference in a football game. Instead, you fumbled the ball away. Ravens get it. And that was really your last opportunity to score points, score a touchdown in this game. Your only opportunity to score a touchdown. Your best opportunity. You spoiled it. Shame on you, Chiefs. But nonetheless, you're a 1-4 team for a reason. Because you're not a good football team. This defense for Kansas City was standing up all day. They kept this Chiefs team in the game. I feel bad for them. They were harassing Joe Flacco, forcing turnovers, and you could do nothing to help them out. The 1 week the defense finally decides to take a stance and stop a team from scoring points and running up the scoreboard, you don't do your part. End result, a loss for the Chiefs. 9-6 victory in an ugly football game that saw 5 field goals go through the uprights, 3 for the Ravens, 2 for the Chiefs. That proved to be the difference. Chiefs go down to the Ravens, 9-6. Ravens take their record to 4-1 on the season. Chiefs fall to 1-4, and rightfully so. They're not playing good football. They're not a good football team. They turn the ball over too much. And I venture to say, it's time for Brady Quinn. Yes, I just said that. Yeah, I just said that. It's time for Brady Quinn. Never thought I would be calling for Brady Quinn to get in the game, but it's time for Brady Quinn. They should have never let go of Kyle Orton, but that's another story for another day. I digress. We move on to the next game. Miami Dolphins at Cincinnati Bengals. Another team that I'm very, very disappointed in. The Cincinnati Bengals at home against the Miami Dolphins. A game that the Bengals should be able to win. Now, I said in the preview that the Dolphins weren't going to lay down to this Cincinnati Bengals team. Because the Dolphins easily could be 3-1 on the season. But they're the inverse. They're 1-3 because they're a team that doesn't know how to win, especially on the road. They're a young football team, and they're trying to learn the nuances of winning in the National Football League. New coach, new quarterback, new offensive coordinator. You know, a lot of moving parts there. So you understand that they can't get it done in crunch time. But the Cincinnati Bengals, on the other hand, have been playing a relatively soft schedule, beating up on lesser competition. And look, if they put them in front of you, you do what you need to do to get a win. I'm not going to badmouth you for beating teams that you're supposed to beat. Do what you're supposed to do. They put garbage in front of you, dispose of it. That's what you've been doing. They put more trash in front of you. You were supposed to take that out, roll it into the front yard, and let the garbage man come and get it. What did you do? You're home. That's what you do with garbage at home. You put it in the trash can, roll it out into the front yard, let the garbage man come and get it. You ain't on the road. You at home. Take the garbage out, man. What did you do? You let the Dolphins hang around, get a touchdown late, take the lead, steal a ball game from you. Andy Dalton was average, was marginal at best in this football game. Turned it over 2 times, was sacked and fumbled another time. So they had issues on the offensive end. On defense, the defense did their part to hold up this game for the Bengals. The defense did enough to win this game. The offense didn't come to play. They couldn't run the ball. And if you're the Bengals, aren't you a little disappointed in Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis? Just a little bit. Not what you thought you were getting, right? Doesn't matter. Again, does not matter. You should be able to do enough to beat the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to stop talking like the Dolphins don't play solid defense. Like the Dolphins aren't in every football game. Like the Dolphins couldn't be 4-1 right now. The Dolphins are playing better than their record indicates. And so I'm going to stop talking like the Dolphins are just straight trash. Because they're not. But you should have been able to beat the Dolphins at home. They're a 1-3 team for a reason. Because they don't know how to win football games. You were a 3-1 football team, which indicates you know how to win. And you had been scoring points. Don't know what happened on Sunday, though. Don't know what happened on Sunday. Turn the football over. That was a heck of an interception by Randy Starks. You know what? He's really adept at doing that. He had 2 interceptions a year ago. He has another one today. And he's great at timing the quarterback throwing the football. And literally, the quarterback is 6 to 7 yards away from him, throwing it, on a line, and he just reaches up and plucks it out of the air at the defensive tackle position. That's an art that he has down to a science. That was a heck of a play. And the Bengals, once again, find a way to not get it done at home against a level of competition that's a little bit better than what you've been playing of late. This wasn't the Browns. This wasn't the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins had been playing good football of late. It hadn't always translated to wins, but they had been playing better football than the Jaguars, than the Browns. And so you played a team that played a little bit of defense, and you couldn't do anything. And so that's exactly why I hadn't bought stock in the Cincinnati Bengals. This is exactly why I said that the Bengals weren't a playoff team, because I don't trust you. This is the kind of stuff that you do. You go at home and you lay an egg against a Miami Dolphins team that had been struggling to close out ball games, that was struggling to win games. You let them come into your stadium and dictate the pace of this game. You let them run the ball. And Reggie Bush wasn't overly effective. Daniel Thomas wasn't overly effective. But you let them run the football, play it close to the vest, and get away with it. You were supposed to score points in this game. Make it hard on them. And the Dolphins were turning the football over. They had a muffed punt in this game. And it wasn't even a muffed punt. You punted the ball to them. They touched it. You recovered it. They were yelling to get away from the ball. One of the Dolphins didn't hear it. You recover the ball. You get a field goal out of that. Dolphins are driving. They turn the football over in the red zone. You had opportunities in this game, but you didn't take advantage of them. Shame on you for being at home, not scoring points, allowing the Dolphins to come in there and get a victory from you. You had a chance to stay up there atop that AFC North division with the Ravens. You blew it. Now you're in second place. And don't look. Don't look now, but the Steelers are right behind you. Don't look. You might get scared. So the Dolphins take care of business on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals, 17-13, taking their record to 2-3 on the season, dropping the Bengals down to 3-2. And that's a bad loss for the Bengals. Good win for the Dolphins, bad loss for the Cincinnati Bengals. Moving on, we have the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in an interstate matchup between two Pennsylvania teams going at it. And again, in my preview of this game, I said one team needed this game, that being the Steelers. One team wanted this game, that being the Eagles. That was going to prove to be the difference. The Steelers had to have this one. They go to 1-3. That was it for them. I was going to write them off. 1-3, tough to come back from, especially when you're in a division like the AFC North, where you know the Ravens are going to be good. The Bengals were playing solid football. The Browns, wow, they're the doormat of that division. They've been a tough out for a lot of teams. You can't afford to go 1-3 in the AFC North. Can't do it and expect to get something done. And so they needed this game. The Eagles just simply wanted this game. And they played like it. Michael Vick driving the Eagles down, getting them as close as the 2-yard line, running in for a score, gets hit by Ryan Clark, fumbles the football into the end zone, Steelers recover it, touchback. Can't have it. And honestly, I thought that was the football gods intervening, because it was a bogus PI flag that set up that scoring opportunity for the Eagles. And they called a bogus pass interference call that set up that potential scoring possession. And so I thought that it was evening out in the end. They weren't supposed to be down there in the first place. Got a gift, and the football gods had to correct or right or wrong. And so he fumbles that ball. The Steelers get it. And Michael Vick is continuing his turnover woes. He has to stop turning the football. I told you that if the Eagles continue to turn the ball over, that luck that they had early in the season that allowed them to start 3-1, although they were turning the football over, it was going to turn into a nightmare for them. Quickly. You can't turn the football over consistently in this league and think you're going to get away with it and win. The Eagles were able to skate by early on in the season, winning by 1, 1, and 2 in games they should have lost. Meanwhile, turning the football over and getting away with it. And I said, if they think that's going to last, they're going to find out very quickly that in this league, you can't turn the football over and think you're going to get away with it just off of being talented. It caught up with them in the Arizona Cardinals game. It caught up with them in this Pittsburgh Steelers game. Vic turned it over again in the first half, in the first quarter, in Steelers territory, or excuse me, in his own Eagles territory, gave the Steelers a prime opportunity to put points on the board. But that Eagles defense was standing up. They were stout. They weren't allowing the Steelers to do much in this football game. And this was a sloppy football game. A lot of penalties. A lot of things that could have been avoided. The Steelers were dropping passes. I thought the Steelers in the first half had a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of miscues by the Steelers, whether it was penalties. You got guys dropping the football left and right. I mean, Rashad Mendenhall came back and he broke off a couple of nice runs. Both of them had to come back because of penalties, procedure penalties, holding penalties. The Steelers were doing it all. Antonio Brown catches a pass, and he had a few drops in the first half. He catches a pass, probably should score a touchdown on this pass, but decides to stop inexcusably. He's a speedster. Outrun this guy to the pylon, dive, and score a touchdown. He stops and tries to cut back right into another Eagle defender, gets stopped at about the 7-yard line. They have to end up settling for a field goal. It's things like that that has to drive a coach crazy. And they just had a lot of those kind of mental blunders and lapses in that first half. Allowed the Eagles to stay in this game when I thought that it's hard to say that they outplayed the Eagles. It's hard to say anybody outplayed anybody in that first half. It was so sloppy. Both teams making mistakes. The Eagles turning the football over. They had penalties. The Steelers dropping passes. They had penalties. So it was just a very, very sloppy played game in the first half. As the second half rolled around, I started noticing a few things. One was Lawrence Timmons was everywhere in this game. Everywhere. He was all over the field, making plays, disrupting plays in the backfield, out in pass coverage. It didn't matter. Wherever you needed him to be, that's where he was. You needed him to go sack Vic, he was there. You needed him to stop Shady McCoy in the backfield, he was there. You needed him to go after Shady McCoy in pass coverage, he was there. Lawrence Timmons was everywhere. And I said to myself, man, this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is starting to look real familiar. And then I said, oh yeah, I know who you are. You're the good Steelers defense. The one that I remember from last year and the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. Oh, okay. I knew I seen you somewhere before. You had been missing for a little while. I didn't know where you were because that team that played against the Raiders that gave up 34 points, I didn't know who they were. Never seen those guys before. Oh, okay. You were looking really familiar in that game. Steelers were playing some really good defense. That punishing, bruising style of defense that after you leave that game, you knew you played the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the kind of game they played on Sunday against these Eagles. And that's why the score was so low. That's what you expect from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not a 31-34 shootout like you saw 2 weeks ago before they went on their bye against the Raiders. This is what you expect when you play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hard-nosed, tough game, down to the last second, down the wire, defensive struggle. That's what we got. Steelers came up big. I thought Ben Roethlisberger was clutch on that drive because the Eagles, they had about a good 6-minute drive of their own. You know, Vic was steady. A lot of McCoy. Get down the field, and they make it happen. You dump off a little screen to Clay Harbor, get him down to the 2-yard line. Brent Selleck, you know, same play that they ran against the Browns and the Ravens. A little tight end out, you know, and right inside the end zone. Vic gets it to him quick. You know, Clay Harbor caught one against the Browns. Selleck caught one against the Ravens. And he caught another one against the Steelers. and it put them ahead in this football game, 13-14. And so the Steelers, who got the ball back with probably a little bit over 6 minutes, put together a masterful drive. A little bit of Rashad Mendenhall, a little bit of Ben Roethlisberger, sprinkle in a few of those receivers and Heath Miller, and you got a recipe for a game-winning drive. They took the ball down the field, ate up the remaining 6 minutes of the clock, called a timeout with about 3 seconds left, and Sean Sweezum comes in and pounds home about a 36-37-yard game-winning field goal as the Steelers take care of business at home against the Philadelphia Eagles in a hard-fought football game, 16-14, to run their record to 2-2 in a well-needed victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And a disappointing loss for the Eagles, because this was a game, if Vic doesn't turn the ball over, especially that one at the goal line, essentially, they probably could win this football game. It's a very different outcome if Vic doesn't turn it over, but he did. They lose, 16-14. And so the Eagles now drop to 3-2 on the season, fall back into a first-place tie with the New York Giants. And this is a big win for the Steelers. They needed this win. This was one they needed to have. Troy Polamalu left this game and re-injured that same calf that he had an issue with coming into this game and had seen him miss the last 3 games of the season. And so that's a devastating blow for the Steelers moving forward. They were happy to have him back, happy to have James Harrison back, and they needed Rashad Mendenhall. Watching this game, it was apparent. This running game was missing Rashad Mendenhall. He was what the game was missing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They needed him back there because what Rashad Mendenhall's presence does is it puts everybody back into their respective roles, where they belong. I thought Isaac Redman was going to emerge as someone that the Steelers could rely on to tote the rock 22 to 24 times in any given game and be a workhorse for the Steelers on offense. I was wrong. He's a change of pace, third down back, a short yardage guy. In that role, he's special. When he's only getting 6 to 8 carries and only asked to come in on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 5 and catch a ball out of the backfield or get the tough yards in between the tackles, he's special in that role. And he looked the part against the Eagles. Mendenhall is the clear starter there. There's no denying that. And Redman looked comfortable in his reduced role. And that's where he belongs. And everybody was put back into their respective roles by Mendenhall coming back. And I thought that was apparent. And they need him. And they welcomed him back. And I thought he was the difference in this game for the Steelers. Without him in this game, I think they lose. And so the Steelers were glad to see Rashad Mendenhall come back and look like his old self. I saw no ill effects from that torn ACL. He looked to be the same guy that was there before the injury, and they need him back, and that was a big win for the Steelers. They're now 2-2 on the season as they took care of business at home against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are now 3-2, 16-14. Moving right along, my lock of the week, my sole survivor for this week was the Cleveland Browns going down to the Giants. Giants being at home, taking on this Browns team who was winless. I thought this was a no-brainer. And if you went in a different direction, it was on you. But I told you you had a layup right here. All you had to do was put it up off the glass. It was an easy layup. But it didn't seem that way to start the game. I was never worried. Because, again, it was the Cleveland Browns. You got to show me that you can win football games. But I did say for a second to myself, Giants, what are you out there doing? What are you doing? But I said, you're going to take care of business because this is the Browns, you're the Giants, and you'll figure that out. They'll figure that out, and you'll take control of that game. And that's what you did. But Ahmad Bradshaw, you cannot fumble on the first play of the game. You can't do it. Normally, that's a tone setter in most games. You fumble on the first play of the game. Other team recovers, ends up scoring 2 plays later. That's normally a tone setter. Normally, you lose games because of that. Luckily enough for you, you were playing the Cleveland Browns. You got to stop starting slow, New York Giants. You can't keep starting slow in football games and think you're going to get away with it. Luckily enough for you, you were playing the Cleveland Browns. That's the theme of the day. Because you can't have Josh Gordon, a wide receiver that runs a sub, 4.6 or 4.5 40, close to 4.4 range. You can't have him being guarded by Chase Blackburn 60 yards down the field and think you can get away with it. Luckily enough for you, you were able to overcome these blunders early on in this football game. You thought it was a good idea to have Chase Blackburn 60 yards down the field, one-on-one. There was safety help over the top, but he had already split that down the middle. That safety wasn't going to be able to stop him from getting to that football. It was a beautifully thrown football by Brandon Weeden. Away from the safety, away from the coverage, out in front of him so he could catch it and run in stride. Touchdown. Just like that, the Browns are up 14-0 in this game. But again, never had a doubt in my mind that the Giants would come back and catch these guys. As I said, if they ever got even with the Browns, they were leaving. And sure enough, eventually they caught up, passed them. And look, this Cleveland Browns team has a long way to go. I told you, when they win their first game, they're going to beat someone. You see that they can score points. Trent Richardson is emerging as a budding star. I really like what I see out of him. Wasn't sure how much of his talents were going to transfer and translate to the National Football League, because he's a big physical back, that can move. But I said he made those guys in college look like boys. He was a man among boys. But when you get to the NFL, everybody's a grown man. And so I was like, how many of these guys is he going to bounce off of? How many tackles is he going to break? How many times is him, coming to a complete stop, breaking a tackle, and then trying to rev it back up to top speed? How many times is that going to work in the National Football League? But he's getting it done. He's breaking tackles. That first guy rarely makes a tackle on Trent Richardson. He's making a lot of yards after contact. And he's doing it all. He's catching the ball out of the backfield. He's running the ball. He's being very effective in pass protection as well. I just like what he's doing right now. Everything about him says stud. And Brandon Weeden, you got to be encouraged if you're the Cleveland Browns. Because, again, I wasn't sold on Brandon Weeden either. I was like, hey, I don't know about this dude. I mean, he's 30, 28, 29, 30, whatever. Older quarterback. He had games at Oregon State where you're like, Oklahoma State, where you're like, that's an NFL throw. That looks really good. And then you had other times where you're like, I don't know, that was an iffy decision. You can't be doing that. And he did that consistently as well. He had those times where he wowed you, and then there was other times where you're like, you can't make that decision. You can't make that throw. And you've seen that in the NFL. That first game against the Eagles, 4 interceptions. His play helped cause them that football game. The defense played really well in that game. They should have beat the Eagles. But he's going to have growing pains. He's a rookie quarterback in the National Football League. It's going to happen. But of late, I've liked what I've seen from Brandon Weeden. If he can continue to build off of what he's doing, I think he's going to be quite all right. And I think if you're the Browns, you have to feel encouraged by your first 2 picks of the draft, because they're your future. Brandon Weeden, although he's about to be 30 years old, they're your future. Him and Trent Richardson together around that young nucleus of receivers, if you can get them to hold on to the football, they could be dangerous. They're doing some things out there. I even like what they got out at tight end. They got a lot of pieces. Their offensive line, top notch. Top notch. You're not going to get to Weeden too often. I thought their offensive line in this game stifled the Giants' pass rush. I mean, and if you look at what they're doing, you look at, Joe Thomas out at left tackle. We know what Joe Thomas can do week in, week out. Alex Mack at center. Alex Mack plays some really good football at the center position. And then they went out and drafted a right tackle this year. His name escapes me right now, but he's playing solid football. These guys on that offensive line get it. And so you're not going to get to Brandon Weeden too often unless you're coming with some kind of dynamic pass rush. And so on offense, I think as they continue to grow together, they're going to be dangerous. But defensively is where the problem is. They don't have any pieces on defense. They're struggling on defense. They don't have Joe Hayden right now. It's showing, but it doesn't matter. He's not the end-all, be-all. He's not the answer to their defensive woes. They just don't have the horses on defense to get it done. They need pass rush. You know, all they got right now is DeQuell Jackson on that defense. Don't have anything. You know, they got a couple of pieces. Of course, Phil Taylor is out. He makes a difference. Jabal Sheard, he played well last year. They need him to step up. They got pieces on that defensive line, but they don't have any linebackers. They don't have any safeties. They don't have any corners except for Joe Hayden. You know, Sheldon Brown, nice piece, solid piece, I guess. But again, they need a lot of work on that defense. They need a lot of retooling over there. But enough about the Browns. The Giants, they're the better team in this matchup. I told you they were going to win. They started out shaky. They got to stop starting games slow. Again, if it were not for the Browns, them playing the Cleveland Browns, they might lose this football game. Ahmad Bradshaw can't fumble on the first play. He atoned for that, though. He atoned for that mistake because he went for 200 yards in this game. He really was dominating the football, whether it was catching it out of the backfield, running it. Ahmad Bradshaw had himself a whale of a game. Victor Cruz, I told you, Eli Manning was going to find whoever was in the game because they were down a lot of receivers in this game. You know, no Ramses Barden out with a concussion. No Akeem Nicks out with that foot injury. And so you were left throwing the ball to Victor Cruz, rookie receiver Ruben Randall, and Dominic Hickson for the most part. And they got it done. Hickson and Ruben Randall put on a clinic on how to catch the football in this game. And when they were done, and when they got close to the end zone, they threw it to Victor Cruz. They threw it to the man they knew could get the job done. And so Victor Cruz let them handle all of the heavy lifting, you know, from 20 to 20. They get inside the red zone, and Victor Cruz said, hey, I got it from here. Thanks, guys. I'm going to take it from here. Got in the end zone 3 times. Was doing the salsa all day long. And we knew the Browns couldn't keep pace with this New York Giants offense. You knew it was only a matter of time before they exploded, and they did. And the Browns made enough mistakes to allow the Giants to take advantage of it. I thought the game turned on 2 straight turnovers by the Browns. You had a possession where the Browns were driving for points. They were already in field goal range. You know, they have an awesome kicker in Phil Dawson. So they were already in field goal range. Whedon throws an ill-advised pass that sails over his receiver's head right into the waiting arms of safety Stevie Brown, runs it back into Cleveland Brown territory, set them up for a touchdown to Victor Cruz. Or Ahmad Bradshaw touchdown run. It was one or the other. Doesn't matter. It was a touchdown. They come back on the ensuing kickoff, and Joshua Cribbs busts off a nice return, but fumbles at the end. Guess who picks it up? None other than Mr. Johnny on the spot, Stevie Brown. Returns, gets a nice little return off of it. Runs it back into Cleveland Browns territory. Giants go down, get more points, and just like that, this game is out of hand. And so I thought the game turned right there. You go from, let's say that's a field goal. That's worst case scenario because the Browns were moving the football. That could have been another touchdown. But let's say worst case scenario, that's a 10-point swing. You go from getting a field goal of your own to giving up a touchdown to the Giants. If that's a touchdown for you, that's a 14-point swing we're talking about. You going in for 7 versus the Giants getting 7. And that's what happened. You gave up a touchdown there when you were about to get points. Then you turn around, fumble again. They get more points, and that's it. The game's out of reach at this point. Because the Browns, just like I said about the Dolphins, the Browns don't want to score, 30 points. That's not what they do. That's not where they are right now on offense. They want you to stop around 24 points. They can hang with you if you score 24. You start talking about 27, 30, 33 points, it's too rich for their blood. I can't get up there. It's too high for me, man. I'm going to stop right here around 27. You go ahead on and do whatever it is you're going to do. I can't get up there with you. I can't score 30 points. Are you crazy? And that's what happened. And that's why I thought the Bengals were going to win, because I thought they could outscore the Dolphins. They played the Dolphins game, hung around 13, 16, 17 points. Enough for the Dolphins to keep pace. Dolphins win. That's not what the Giants did, though. And that's what they couldn't afford to do, because this Browns team scored 27 in this game. But the Giants are an explosive offense, put up 41, and that proved to be the difference. You know, they outscored the Browns because the Browns jumped on them early. But you know the Browns couldn't keep pace. And they stopped scoring, and the Giants didn't. And that was the difference in the game. Turnovers and the Giants' ability to take advantage of those turnovers. So Giants 41, Browns 27, Giants 3-2 on the season, Browns 0-5 on the season. They're going to get someone eventually. It's going to be at home, but they're going to get someone eventually. But it wasn't going to happen in New York. Told you that. That was the sole survivor of the week. Got it done. Giants win a game they're supposed to win at home. They go on to 3-2, and they avenged that loss from a week ago. That was a tough loss a week ago at Philadelphia. They come back out, started the game slow, but get it done. 41-27.